book is called Bunny's Book Club by Annie Silvestro. It shows who has checked out this book before. Bunny, bear, porcupine, raccoon. Do you know what a book club is? It's when a group of friends gets together and they all read the same book, and then they have a little get together, a little meeting, and they talk about that book, and they talk about what they liked about it and if they enjoyed it or not. And so this one is called Bunny's Book Club. Bunny loved books. He loved them ever since he'd first heard the lady with the red glasses reading outside the library. As he listened, Bunny imagined himself climbing mountains, captaining a ship, ruling a kingdom. But when summer ended, Storytime moved back inside. Bunny wasn't sure if animals were allowed in the library, but Bunny was sure he couldn't live without books. Night after night, he could hardly sleep for wishing he had to do something. So with a flashlight in his paws and hope in his heart, Bunny jumped out of bed and tiptoed through the dark. But when he reached the library door, it was locked. So were the windows. Look at all these places that he tried. He tried digging, climbing, and yanking, but nothing worked. Until finally he noticed the book return. The shiny handle was far above his head, but it was no match for a high-hopping bunny hungry for books. Bunny leapt. He clung to the bar, flung himself over, and wriggled his cottontail through the slot. He landed inside with a thud. Bunny's eyes sparkled at the sight of the shelves bursting with books. It was better than a field full of fresh, crunchy carrots. Bunny didn't know where to start. He took a deep breath. It smelled as if he were wrapped inside the pages of his favorite book. He followed his nose to the adventure section. There he found stories about swashbucklers, sharks, and superheroes. Bunny greedily grabbed them all. His whiskers twitching with excitement, he slipped his treasures through the book slot one by one. Then, performing his best balancing act, Bunny wobbled home. He couldn't wait to dig in. And so Bunny returned to the library each night. He searched and he sneaked, and then he scurried home to read. Soon his home was more books than burrow. Then one evening, a loud knock startled Bunny. He closed his books and opened the door. "Where have you been?" asked Porcupine. "Reading," said Bunny. "Why?" said Porcupine. Bunny's eyes popped wide open. "Why?" he spluttered. "Have you ever been to the library?" It was time for Bunny to let Porcupine in on his secret. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" said Porcupine. "Calm your quills," said Bunny. "I'm too prickly, I'll never fit." Bunny pushed and shoved until pop went Porcupine. Bunny slipped in and flipped on his flashlight. "Whoa," said Porcupine. "I know," said Bunny. "Do you think there's a story about balloons? I've always wondered about balloons." "Most definitely," said Bunny. Sure enough, Porcupine found books on balloons and on desert and dunes and caterpillars and cocoons. And when Bunny handed him one about hedgehogs, he hugged it. The two friends took turns cramming books out the slot. Their towers teetered so high they could barely carry them. Back at Bunny's, they cozied up with cups of tea and carrot muffins, and together they read until sunrise. One night, Bear noticed the light on at Bunny's. He opened the door and tripped over a stack of books. "What's going on?" said Bear. "Here," said Bunny, handing him a book. Bear made room and settled in to read. Soon more curious animals began visiting. "Do you have any books about outer space?" said Bird. "Or about volcanoes?" asked Mole. "I'd like a ghost story," asked Mouse. "I think it's time for a field trip," said Bunny. One by one, the animals stuffed themselves inside the library. Bear caused a bit of a delay. They scattered about, sniffing the stacks and pawing over pages. Squirrel gathered stories about the circus. Raccoon nabbed one about outlaws and bandits. Frog found a fairy tale. No one heard the key in the front door, and no one heard the clack, clack, clacking of footsteps, and no one heard the light flick on. "What do we have here?" said the librarian. The animals looked up in shock. Bunny gasped. Porcupine gaped. Bear groaned. "Follow me," she said. The animals marched slowly behind her. We're done for, said Porcupine. All libraries have rules, said the librarian sternly. Bunny's whiskers trembled. Porcupine's back bristled. Bear eyed the door. Bunny stepped forward to take the blame. The librarian leaned down. The first rule is every book lover must have one of these, she said, and she handed Bunny and his friends shiny new library cards. Now you may borrow books, she said, as long as you return them, of course. Bunny couldn't believe his ears. They could keep coming to the library. He beamed at his fellow readers and then bounced to the shelves. He picked the perfect book, and he proudly checked out the very first official selection for Bunny's Book Club. They're all reading. Frog. Where's the mouse? Oh, here. Squirrel and mole. And that's the end. Bunny's Book Club.